The American people are watching Donald Trump with interest, with evaluation about his depraved and immoral policies of attacking fellow Americans who are below the poverty line, to use it as a political hostage, to troll the Democrats. May I remind him that people below the poverty line are Americans and they vote and they live in red states. And this sharp contrast during the shutdown has not been to Donald Trump's benefit. I know there's a lot of reporters out there saying, if the shutdown ends, it'll be to Donald Trump's benefit. Forget that. It's shown everybody exactly. It's ripped the mask off of Donald Trump and his failed economic policies. And even worse, his lack of a heart. We don't like presidents without a heart. It's bad enough we got one without a brain, without morals, without ethics, but no heart. That's going to be rejected. I cover that and what the polling is saying about Donald Trump's policies and the rejection of them wholesale by the American people on the weekend edition, the Saturday edition of Legal AF. And here's a clip. Donald Trump didn't get the memo. He's walking around clueless and out of touch. He has a Biden problem, and I'll talk about it. That was demonstrated on election night. As whether you're progressive Democrats or you are moderate Democrats, you won and won big on Tuesday night. And it's because you're focused on kitchen table politics. You're focused on the people. You're focused on the people's checkbooks and pocketbooks and purses and grocery wagons. Every day that the shutdown continues, it is on a weekly basis, $15 billion hit to our economy every week that the government stays shut. And now that has provided the stark contrast we've needed as opponents of Donald Trump to show that he doesn't care about the middle class. He doesn't care about on the divide between rich and poor. He cares only about the rich, because the poor are suffering as he trolls 42 million people who are below the poverty line in his economy and denies them full anti-hunger payments, SNAP payments, which we're going to talk about tonight. The shutdown, which has impacted everyone's health care. It has impacted airline travel. It has impacted government entitlement payments to people on the social safety net that need it. Never has there been a starker contrast between the haves and the have-nots, between the Democratic ideals and the Republican MAGA depraved policies and principles. As Donald Trump fiddles as the American economy and the middle class and the poor burn, as he parties it up in Mar-a-Lago. He's not even in Washington right now to negotiate, to reopen the government. He's at Mar-a-Lago playing golf, spending hundreds of millions of dollars on his golf game with taxpayer expenses instead of doing the hard work of governing and leading from the front. He's not even leading from behind. That suggests he's even in the line. He has abdicated his responsibility. He's busy raising money in Miami this week. Think about this week. He lost 9 times in court. I'm going to go over every one of them with you here on Legal AF on the weekend. 9 losses. He's going to lose likely at the United States Supreme Court on tariffs, his signature framework for his entire administration. And what's he doing? He's hosting fat cats in Miami, including Jeff Bezos, including Serena Williams, and others who are partying it up in Miami and then sleeping in a bed at Mar-a-Lago with golden thread sheets and high thread count and a great Gatsby party and gold fixtures, while everyday Americans can't make ends meet. And they have noticed 72% of Americans believe the economy is bad, that it's not the golden era of the economy that Donald Trump keeps talking about. It's not the golden era of cryptocurrency. They don't care what the stock market is doing. They care what the supermarket is doing. It's not Wall Street. It's always been Main Street, which is the party of Main Street right now. That stark contrast has been presented to us as the shutdown shows how many millions of Americans can't afford health care. without government subsidy, watching their premiums double and triple. They couldn't afford them, barely afford them before. How are they going to afford 3 times the amount? As air travel grounds to a halt. By November the 14th, 10% more of air travel will be grounded. 20% 2 weeks or 3 weeks after that, if the shutdown continues. And what does Donald Trump care? He's busy partying. The poll numbers tell him that he's on the wrong side of the issue. 52% of Americans blame Donald Trump. That's 10 points more than the Democrats for the shutdown. And we're going to cover that and then show what's happening in the courts, the crowds, the courts, the courage. That is the takeaway from Tuesday night in America on election night. And I'll filter it through all the court at the intersection of law and politics, all of the court results this week, which was an epic string of losses for the Trump administration. From sea to shining sea. I'm Michael Popok. You're on the Midas Touch Network. This is Legal AF, the podcast. I'm flying solo tonight. Well, I'm not solo because I've got several 100,000 audience members with me leaving comments. You may notice that I'm opening the Saturday show and I don't have my normal wingman, Ben Mysalis, co-founder with me of Legal AF and all things Legal AF. You know, he's taking some well-deserved few hours off with his family, and he would do it for me. So I had no problem stepping in and taking over for tonight in the show. And we wish Ben and his family a happy time together for the few hours that he's not behind the microphone. Love you, man. Okay, so let's move into the politics side as I slide into the law side. The shutdown is costing the American economy $15 billion a week. $15 billion a week. Let's put that into a context. SNAP payments, which are anti-hunger payments, used to be the old food stamp program, which 42 million Americans below the poverty line, from babies to children to the elderly to veterans to disabled, rely on, is $8 billion a month. Month of November, $8 billion. Month of December, $8 billion. We're losing $15 billion in the economy because of the shutdown. And what is Donald Trump doing? He's playing golf on our dime. That's called, in my world, that's called theft of honest service. He was elected to do a job, and he's not doing it. And the American people notice it. His approval rating is at 37%. I made a prediction a couple of months ago that it may crack the 30% barrier. Think about that. That means he's lost at least 10 to 12% of MAGA have rejected Donald Trump. You don't get the economy is bad with 72% reporting without a fair amount of MAGA sliding over to criticize Donald Trump, same with the Trump approval rating. And who to blame while he parties it up and golfs it up at Mar-a-Lago. That split screen is something that Donald Trump, this is his Biden problem to a certain degree. Because I was a supporter of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, don't get me wrong. But at the end, and after the COVID restart of the economy, I think that Joe Biden lost touch with the American people, which is surprising given his long commitment to public service for more than 50 years. I think he became a little obtuse. I think he became a little disconnected, a little clueless about the suffering of everyday Americans. Donald Trump, for instance, just like Joe Biden, says the economy is working for everyday Americans. Just be patient. Just be patient. How do you tell a baby who's crying without milk or formula to just be patient? How do you tell your senior loved one who can't afford their medication or anything they need to have dignified life, just be patient. Just hold on. They said it would be 6 months after the administration started that all of their policies would come to a fruition and create a roaring economy. We're now 10 months in, none of that has happened. It's actually gotten worse. He says golden economy. He says golden ballroom. He says golden Lincoln bathroom. He says golden lettering on the way in the Oval Office. He says rename the stadium where the Washington Commanders football team plays and make it Donald Trump Stadium. It's all he cares about. It's an egomaniac. 72% of America says we're suffering. And that's why the Democrats had a tsunami and a wipeout of the Republican Party on Tuesday, because they have focused on affordability. That's code word for Trumponomics is killing us. It's always been the economy stupid. I'm not calling you stupid. That's an old phrase from James Carville when he represented Bill Clinton. It's always been it's always been the watchword. And the Democrats are having a national conversation, which is very healthy, between their progressive wing and their Democratic Socialist wing and their moderate wing. I fall more in the moderate wing. Doesn't mean I reject every aspect of the progressives. But the Bernie-crats and the AOC-crats and who helped get Zoran elected mayor in New York with a relatively close call there. That is one version of democratic ideals. But in big states, which is where presidents come from, like Mikey Sherrill, the New Jersey new governor, and Spanberger, the new Virginia governor, both were known as moderates in the House. They were known as the Mod Squad. And they're the current and future leaders of the Democratic Party for national office. After watching the acceptance speech of Governor-elect Spanberger, who doesn't think she couldn't be president? I do. I think she could be president. I think Mikey Sherrill could be president easily, along with Gavin Newsom and J.B. Pritzker and Pete Buttigieg and others in the party. So that national conversation that we're having in plain sight is healthy. It's always based on morals. It's always based on helping people. It's based on affordability. Nobody could have more laser focused on the kitchen table than Mamdani in New York. That was his entire campaign. Donald Trump declared recently that for the Democrats, affordability is now dead. How is it dead? Tariffs are crushing the American dream. Real estate and pricing around real estate has removed any semblance of being able to afford a home in America. Right now, people aren't worried about owning a home. They're worried about how they're going to pay for what's in their grocery cart, what's in their shopping buggy, which they can't afford. And now all the things that Donald Trump did, all the hundreds of thousands of federal workers and other workers that he threw on unemployment lines, all the funding he cut off to the states, all the undermining of the healthcare system, all the undermining of the public funding that goes into giving people dignity in a social safety net. It's all coming, all those chickens are coming home to roost now on election night and in the courts. Welcome back. Legal AF, the podcast, top podcast for law and politics in America. It's on tops on the YouTube charts, tops on the Apple charts with your help. Help us stay at the top of those charts. It's important. The bigger we are, the more our voices are heard, the more our First Amendment rights are protected, and so are yours. On the podcast side, download us on Apple and Spotify. Watch us on YouTube. Come over to Legal AF, the YouTube channel, as we're trying to crash our way through the 1 million subscriber barrier. The bigger we are, the more street cred we have, the more content we can make, the 40 videos a week that you want and you consume here at the intersection of law and politics. So until my next report, tune in for Legal AF, YouTube, and Legal AF, the podcast this Wednesday for our next edition. Until my next report, I'm Michael Popok. Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.